and welcome to another episode of the Immergence Show. I'm so excited today because our conversation is going to tackle one of the biggest pain points in our industry, risk. How do you build for the future without burning your runway? Today, we have a guest who has truly done it all. She has engineered space robotics for NASA, managed iPhone operations for Apple, helped build the Quest Pro at Meta, and now she is the CEO of Flat2VR Studios. She is the definition of a triple threat, an engineer, a creator, and a CEO. We are going to talk about creator-led R&D and how to validate your roadmap before you write a single line of code. Please welcome Jasmine. Audience, I want to hear from you. Drop your questions in the chat, tag a founder friend who needs to hear this, and let's get into it. How are you doing, Jasmine? Thank you for being with us.
Nico, thank you so much. That was a really sweet intro. And thanks for having me.
Of course, my pleasure. Yeah, I think you and I kind of share a little bit of a similar background, coming from engineering to the creator world and XR. But I'm very interested to hear your journey from your perspective, your story, kind of like, how did you decide to take the leap? How you, got into the XR and, VR space? Tell us all.
Yeah, so I've really been into tech my whole life and also into gaming my whole life. In fact, I would stay up gaming and not get sleep in order to, yeah. So anyway, so these have just been really big parts of my life. And I decided to get into engineering because I love tech. Ended up working. My first job was at a space robotics company. I worked on the Mars rover along with some robotic arms on different spacecrafts, and then I moved on to work as a lead engineer at General Atomics on Navy aircraft carriers. And then I was like, man, I can't sit at my desk by myself just solving math problems all day. So I got my MBA, also got a project management certification from UCLA, and then ended up
Wow.
moving to Apple. Yeah, and then I was the first US hire to build iPhone factories in India, which was vastly different from what I did before, but it taught me so much about operations. But I always had that itch of like trying to get closer to gaming somehow. And then I had the opportunity to work at Meta. I ended up leading the cross-functional team of engineers that enabled eye tracking and face tracking there. And when I had the opportunity, I was like, well, this is at least in VR. And I've been a huge fan of VR for a very long time. Actually, while I was at my first job ages ago, the space robotics job, I was applying for VR jobs back then before VR was even popular. It was just a dream that I always had to work in. So I ended up getting to work at Meta, and that was really great. But hardware and gaming is still pretty far apart, and so eventually I decided to quit my job at Meta and just give myself a year to figure something out, and see how I can break into the gaming industry. At the time, I was already a content creator. I had been a content creator for 3 years on YouTube, on Twitch, making VR game content, VR tips, tutorials, all of those different things. And so I had met several content creators in the space. And so um, Eric Masher, who has a popular podcast, VR podcast, and then Skiva or Harry. He also had a very popular podcast between realities in the VR space. All three of us met through being creators, and about 6 months into me quitting, the tech industry, we decided to co-found the company Impact Reality. So Flat2VR Studios is a subsidy of Impact Reality, and Impact Reality was really focused on marketing, like how to help VR game developers reach their audience. Since all three of us had already been connected to the VR audience, we were like, well, we need to help bridge that gap for all these developers so that they can get direct feedback on their games from the players.
Wow. Like, mic drop. You are so impressive. Sorry. You're so impressive. So many great work. I can't wait to talk about some of the projects that you all have built and help the other companies to build. But yeah, this was really fascinating that you kind of have done all the engineering side and been a creator and then like bridged the both. So really, really impressive. And thanks to Eric and Felipe for commenting, and everyone else who's joining us. Feel free to comment and tell us your thoughts throughout, and we'll get to your questions as well. Jasmine, before I get to any questions, if you want to share any videos anytime, let me know, and we can do that. But yeah, I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about, the type of projects that you guys work on. I know that it's very much a bottom-up approach, creator-led R&D. But yeah, if we can kind of understand what type of projects in general you take on, that would be helpful.
Yeah, so our company is quite layered. There are numerous things that we do. So we started as a PR marketing company, and to date, we've helped launch and market over 150 VR games, including playtesting some of them. And then we also have our development side in our studio, and also our publishing now, which is the newer one. But with our development, we really specialize and focus on taking non-VR games and bringing them into VR. I do have a video of the first game that we ever did this with. So this is a Trombone Champ. This is a 2D game, completely 2D. And if you look up what this looks like online, it's flat. There's no 3D elements whatsoever. So we were able to reimagine what this game would look like in a 3D environment. So in the 2D version, there is no theater, but we're like, well, if you're playing trombone, shouldn't you be in a theater? Shouldn't you be performing? Shouldn't you have an audience? All of the stuff that didn't exist in the original game. And the crazy part of this is we did the entire thing in 11 months from start to finish, which includes a 3-month QA process.
This is really amazing. So you're adding a different dimension to existing storytelling that the games and experiences are doing. Really beautiful.
Right. And we actually, so this is just one of the games that we've made so far. Recently, we released a different type of game. This one is called RoboQuest VR, and this one already existed quite well. Oops. So this one already existed quite well in the non-VR version. It's 3D, it's immersive, and when we saw this game, we thought, this game, how is this not already made for VR? So for us, the challenge with this was now taking the 2D or the non-VR game and bringing it into VR. But mostly the challenge here becomes, this is a very fast-paced game. This game requires you to move really fast, which in VR can cause motion sickness. So how do we prevent that? But also, there's a lot of weapons in this game. Usually when you have weapons in VR, you want to be able to do the manual reload and really like be able to take advantage of the fact that you can physically do things. But in a fast game like this, where it's all about like it's a roguelike and you're just like there's a lot of speed running events that happen around this game. So if you do have to manually reload, this adds so much more time to your gameplay than what you would do in the non-VR version. And because of that, we really had to think through how to reimagine this game and still have it feel really balanced for VR. Some of the other things that we really had to think about for this as well is there's a lot of menus. You like all the maps are procedurally generated, and you have to like be able to navigate through this. But if you're going in a really fast environment like gameplay, in non-VR, you would just have the map and you could just press the key, or it will always be at the top corner. But how do you get a very quick access to your map in a VR space? Like you're certainly not going to open up a map like you normally would in real life. So for this, what we ended up doing was creating like a watch element. It was like the map would basically be a hologram hovering over your watch, and that's something you could do very quickly and access. Something that we haven't really seen too much of in VR, if at all, really. But there's a lot of reimagining that we had to do to make this game work really well in VR. So the things that we do in our development studio varies from completely reimagining, like what we did with Trombone Champ, or taking a really robust game, but just making it feel like it was made from the ground up in VR.
Wow. Now I kind of understand how you're using your background in mechanics and physics and engineering to reimagine these things. This is really fascinating. So I know you mentioned that it's not as simple to just take a 2D game to VR. Maybe you can share with us what is kind of like some tips or golden rules for unflattening beyond what you just shared.
Right. So there's a couple of things. I mean, this is how we really think through what we decide to take. Not every game will work well as a VR game, and so just understanding what can translate well into VR is a really important one. Um, and then also what's possible hardware wise. If you're only intending to make a PlayStation VR2 game or a Steam PC VR game, then that's okay. You can probably take a little bit more heavier games into VR. But if your main audience for your game is on Quest, it's not possible to compress many games that are non VR into a mobile chipset. So that's one of the things that we think about. But then the next thing, so that's the first phase, and then the second phase is now, okay, we've picked a game. Like, how do we reimagine this for VR? Like the very top of our whiteboard basically says, like, why is this in VR? Like, there has to be a reason. And what we see a lot of the times is games that are being brought over to VR are just brought like either one to one or a very direct translation. And like, we don't want to do that. We want games that feel like they're built from the ground up for VR. And so we really take pride in saying, why is this in VR? So an example for Trombone Champ would be in the original game, like you can customize your trombones by just adding skins to them, but really you're only seeing you're only seeing the notes, and you're not really seeing yourself play the trombone in the flat game because it's just 2D. But in VR, all of a sudden you can interact with your trombone, and that is a whole like mechanic now. And so it was very difficult to try to figure out how we do this, and eventually we landed on, we did want the sliding motion so that it fits really similarly to an original trombone. But the other thing that came out of this is, well, all of a sudden you have like the trombone is going to be the most center focal point of the entire game for both the player and for the viewers if you're making content on it. So the first thing you'll see is the trombone, and then your eyes will go to the notes and then the audience. And so what do we do with this really prominent thing that before only had skins? And that's why you'll see with Trombone Champ now, we have different trombones, like a chicken trombone, like a rubber chicken trombone. We have a cat trombone that you can pet and it'll like purr and it'll look back at you. Like, we really wanted to think, why is this in VR and how do we make it so special and unique in VR? And then
Wow.
another example that I have for RoboQuest, for example, like dual wield on a non VR game just means you have two and they're fixed in location. But dual wield in VR means free range. You could be shooting two opposite things. It just completely changes the meaning of it. And so there's so many nuances of taking a non-VR game and bringing this to VR into VR. Like, how do you balance out all of these mechanics? How do you take advantage, like full advantage of the medium? How do you think outside of the box and bring something new into the game? What I like to say about what we do is, it's the difference between watching like a Disney movie versus going to Disneyland. If it was one to one, it would not have that same like magic and experience. But at Disneyland, they have all this like different foods, like seasonal foods that you can go and like even get a little book with the food. And that's not something you would experience in a Disney movie. But it's just like, how do you bring extra elements to take advantage of the medium?
Love it. Amazing. Wow, that makes total sense. So you're not using technology for the sake of technology. It actually has to make sense and elevate the experience and interactivity.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
on this past weekend, they were telling the teams to use, XR glasses or VR, robotics, AI, and then they were like, I don't know how to use all of this. And we have to make sure like it makes sense for the use case. You can't just keep using technology, mix them all, and hope something will work out. So totally makes sense. Thank you for that. And we have some great comments from the audience supporting you so much. Eric says you're not just a CEO, you're also a producer of great projects. And, Miles saying, great to see you. Shannon says you're very inspiring. Her passion is contagious. I'm very proud to be a part of this company. Um, you have a
Oh.
very supporting community, which is beautiful. Amazing. And Eric says, staying true to the original game, but making it feel like a VR game is the main goal for us. We will never just lazily port the game to VR. Awesome. And maybe you can share with us a little bit of the process. Do you work with the actual creators of the games, the original game, and or like how much interaction goes into that if any of our audience members wants to, get started on this?
Yeah, we work with a lot of people. So yes, we do work with the original IP owners, and it really depends on how much or how little they want to be involved. Some of them are really busy and they've seen our repertoire and our work, and they're like, just go for it. We can meet every now and then to make sure that it's all going well. Others really want to be involved. So, for example, Trombone Champ is a husband and wife company. This was their first big game that hit the market, but it's just two people, and they're like, no, this is our baby, we really want to be involved. And they're so funny, and so I'm glad that they were as involved with the game as they were, especially with bringing it into VR, because we were able to retain the humor and the essence of like them as then their personality back into the VR version. But yeah, so we do work with the original IP owners and developers, mostly to touch base and make sure that the game is going in a direction that they feel happy with. Because we want to make sure that we stay true to what they have created, and that when our version of the game releases, that it does not get that we don't make their original players upset. The point of this is to give people another opportunity to be excited about something, not to ruin the original. So that's mostly what we work with them on. We've not really had any of the original developers working on ours. We pretty much stay out of the way as much as possible. So a little bit of a background on Flat2VR Studios and how that came to be. So Flat2VR Studios was born out of the Flat2VR modding community. Our fourth partner, Elliot, he joined us 6 months in, and it turns out he had the Flat2VR modding community, which has existed for over 5 years at that point. And that community existed to really to make a lot more games in VR that are just very robust games. And at the time, developing for games for VR, there was very few, and for a long time that they're like that every week that a game would launch, everyone knew about it because there just wasn't that many games. So what they wanted to do was make it so that there was a lot more games, and they did this by modding existing non-VR games to make them playable in VR. And they did this by reverse engineering, hacking, modding, all of like the craziness of not having any access to a single line of code. It was just hacking together something to make it work in VR. And so that ethos carries across to Flat2VR Studios. In fact, we hired a lot of people from the modding community into our company.
Wow.
And so like a lot of that knowledge and a lot of that know-how is how we built studios. So for us, we want to get out of the way of the IP owner as much as possible, because they're probably working on another project or doing something else. Like, this is most of the time when we talk to a company, VR was not on their bingo card. If you know what I mean. Like, they weren't really thinking about it, but we show them, like, we would love to take your game. It has such a great audience that's available and ready to like devour this game in VR, and we promise we'll do a great job. So we try to stay out of their way as much as possible, and we're able to do that because of all of the learnings that we acquired through the modding community.
It's very interesting. So you're not just, the founding team is not just the creators, but also the overall team are made of creators and engaged community members, which is really
Yeah.
valuable. Lessons. It's all lessons for anyone hearing, wanting to build a company like this. Let's talk about these benefits of, doing something like this. A lot of times founders just rely on market research or data that is available that might be old, or like, having community managers telling them feedback. So it's not so much first-hand data. But for you guys, it has been like, very direct contact with your audience. You can share with us, examples or, ways that you benefited from this. Maybe saved some money or pivoted your roadmap learning from your audience?
Yeah. So yes, we are very creator focused. So three of the three founding partners of this company, all three of us were VR creators to start. So we love creators. We know how in tune creators are to the audience and the people that you're trying to serve. And so what we did was the first couple of people that we ever hired were all VR creators, essentially people that had no experience in the gaming industry, no experience in any of this, but we knew that they were very passionate about VR, and that they knew the audience and that they were willing to work hard for the thing that they love. So I mean, that's really risky, but to be honest, none of us really came from a traditional gaming background or any of this space. So for us, we were like, well, they're like us, it's okay. um, and what's really helped with this is um, there's several elements of it. So what it's helped us with is knowing what the market is interested in, because I still continue to this day to post videos about games, about all of this different stuff on my creator channel. I'm getting direct feedback. Like, I still read every single comment that I get, and so I am aware of what people are thinking. And we see this too, like several of our team members have podcasts, and so they'll talk about something, and not just about our games, they talk about all the games in the VR space, and people will tell them exactly what they want, what they don't like, and have full discussions, leave comments, etc. So with basically every single game that comes out, as long as one of us is talking about it on one of our platforms, we have a very good idea of what the players are thinking and feeling in respect to this game. So that's really helped us in terms of how it's allowed us to pivot strategies. Sometimes we do get like an earlier signal than what market research would do. And it's in ways that you wouldn't really expect. So you could sit there and like read comments or do various things, but as a creator, we're posting things and we can see when something is doing better or worse than other videos. And of course, someone could also do this, but unless you're just like studying someone's like account and hoping that they're thinking the same strategy that you want to evaluate, it's not the same. So for example, if I'm like, I have a feeling that, as an example, like free to play games are taking off, let me just test this, and let me make a video on Gorilla Tag and see how it performs against all my other videos. And that's a very like quick indication that like, yes, there's a pulse here. And so certain times I will drop videos to test a theory. So if you're watching my stuff, you might see something that's a little bit unusual or out of the ordinary, or like just slightly. And it's really because I'm testing to see if the market and the audience will respond to it. Another thing we're able to do is, because we do have an audience across like the different members of our team, we are able to like easily, we're like spinning our head around something, and I'm like, let's just post something. Someone post something on Twitter and just ask like a poll, or post a poll on your YouTube channel or somewhere. Between all of us, we have quite a large community of like hundreds of thousands of players across all of probably around 500,000 different VR players across like our immediate reach, the subscribers to us, not even extended to beyond that. So we'll just say, yeah, let's post a poll and get people's feedback and thoughts, ideas, and that helps get us unstuck rather than having to plan to do like a market research and try to find the people. Like, there's so much more of a lead time if you had to do it in the more professional way versus our like, let's just get it out there as fast as possible. We really do believe in listening to the players, listening to the audience. Now, there's obviously a nuance that like they know what they want and they will tell you what they want, so you pay attention to it. But then also, they might not have as much visibility into what's possible. So it's a really fine balance between taking what they want and also extending that, or like stretching that a bit and giving them something unexpected. So we like to call it like a delightful surprise, or like a surprise joy for them. So because we believe so much in getting feedback from players, we started this whole playtesting department called Impact Labs. So in there, we have over 2,000 volunteer playtesters and it's completely volunteer. So they pick what games they want to test out, and the only requirement is that they give really detailed like feedback that we then take and give to like either if it's our games internally, then our developers, or if it's a client for our PR and marketing company, then we take all of that feedback and give it to them, so that they can know what the players will think of the game before it even launches. And this has been really, really like this has been such a big deal, and it's a service that people really that people and developers really love, because some things you're so into the development that you just don't think about these little things that need to that impact the player when they play it a little bit differently. So getting access, so now that we've had this like play tester base, we're not only like testing our theories on our creator platforms, but we're like deeply testing it even further with like a very like engaged and smaller test group.
Wow. I was going to ask whether you build in public or not. So it seems like somewhat you still keep
Mhm.
some of that as a surprise, which is great. But you try to like de-risk it as much as possible before it comes out, which is amazing. Yeah, I love this approach. And has there been any challenges around doing this way? Like, is it like too time consuming, or sometimes you may get noise rather than signal? Like, what are the challenges with doing something like this?
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. There's definitely a high noise to signal ratio, and it is really like you can get all the data you want, but if that data is skewed towards one audience versus another, so this is something that we're always thinking about. If they are part of our volunteer playtester group, they are probably very hardcore VR players who have a lot of experience, and so when they're saying things like, "Oh, this needs to be more like that," or this or whatever, we're always thinking, okay, but this is from someone who's very experienced in VR. Like, how will this feel for someone that's new in VR? And so sometimes we do have to go and like canvas and try to find people that have never played, and we're constantly expanding labs so that we always have some level of balance between like newer players versus experienced players. But yeah, it is like when we get feedback from players, and it comes across everywhere, by the way. So we might see it in reviews, we might see it in like in Reddit threads, we might see it on comments on the trailer, or from like feedback from the playtesting group. So we like consolidate all of that. We take everything that we see online, and we are very serious about paying attention to the players. That's probably I feel like I've said it a bazillion times, but that is, if I had to hit on something, like we focus so much on our players and making sure that they are satisfied and happy with the game. And that does come with a cost, obviously. But for us, that is the most important, because that's what we started this company on. We started this company because we were passionate about the industry, and we wanted to make games that we wanted to play, and that what we thought was an underserved market in the space. And so, yeah, so us paying attention to the players is very important. So when it comes to like signal to noise, it is, we take everything and we all care so much, and so then we're like, but this person said that and this person said that, and we do actually get into a call and just debate and say no, and then eventually we're like, no, that's not important enough for us, we need to prioritize this and that. But we all in our team, every person that works on this game and develops a game has a voice to like say what they think, because again, we hired people that love this industry, so every single person on our team has a valid point of view, and that's how we kind of get through that signal to noise issue. And then you also asked if it takes too long. No, not really. I think it's okay. I actually think it's a lot faster than doing like proper market research, because like I said, if it was a small thing, we don't have to think about this long, complicated process. Let someone just on someone's account, someone post something, and let's go get some direct feedback from players. So I wouldn't think it takes too long, but I think being able to decide data meaningfully and know how to prioritize on the action items and know what will deliver the most ROI for the players, that's definitely the hardest part.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you for that. We do have a question from Felipe, which actually brings me to another question. So if some brand or company or creator doesn't have the level of following that you all have, how can they best get the feedback? And I was thinking, do you work with other creators or developers that may want to develop themselves, but they want to tap into your audience to get feedback?
Yeah, so yes. So the answer is yes, there's a way to do this. And the way to do that would be to like borrow someone else's audiences essentially, which is why you see brands working with creators because they're able to borrow their audience essentially. In terms of like playtesting, it is a service. Like so Impact Labs is a service that we provide to anybody that is interested. We like as a whole, we just want all the games to be incredible in VR and on VR in general. So we're like we yeah, this is available and you get the same exact resources that we get. So that's one for the playtesting and being able to get a lot of different players quickly. And then in terms of like being able to access other audiences if you don't have it, I mean, one, I would say to build, but it's really hard to build an audience, especially if your game is completely new. It's a new IP, something that no one knows about. It's almost impossible to build an audience from scratch. So you do have to like borrow. So ways to do this would be to partner with a creator who has a very similar audience and maybe do like a long-term deal with them where they continue to publicly like show how the game is developed over time, and then getting feedback from their audiences. So maybe it's like a live stream, or maybe it's I'm not sure. There's different ways to do this with a creator. The main like I guess the main problem that I've seen when brands partner with creators is that they usually think of it as just this very one-off transaction, and that's okay if your focus is to garner awareness. So if you want a lot of awareness and a lot of reach, then yes, contact a bunch of different creators and just have them make one video, and then you'll be spread wide. But if you want to build a connection and a community, then you pick like I mean, not just one, but in this example, you pick one creator who's really aligned with your audience and partner with them over time. And one, because their audience should really match already what your audience is.
That makes sense. And have you all started looking into other areas like AR or mixed reality, as glass is becoming more mass adopted?
You're asking all the hard questions. But yes, so that is another thing. So for example, if you look at my channel, you'll see that I started covering a lot more smart glasses, whereas I never covered smart glasses before. And I was seeing a trend, which we can all see now very clearly, but I was seeing this like when the glasses first launched. I saw that there was an appetite for it. And so I've like continued to double down in creating content for smart glasses because of that. Now it's obvious to everybody because it's everywhere, but back then it wasn't obvious, but it was obvious to me. And so that's one thing that's really helpful about being a creator. In terms of creating for glasses, I mean, absolutely. If any, like as if the platforms allow us to, we would love to bring games to smart glasses. We already do have mixed reality in two of our games actually. So Trombone Champ has a mixed reality mode, so you can play trombone with a snowy mountain background if you're out in the snow or something using mixed reality. And we also have a game called Skyrunner Drone Hero. This game is really fascinating. This was not at all. This was one of our publishing co-developed titles rather than a Flat2VR Studios title. This game has realistic drone controls, and you fly a drone through different obstacles, different types of campaigns. And what we found out after this game launched, which was so fascinating, is because so the reason that this game hasn't reached a wider adoption, even though it's such a cool game, is because it has realistic drone controls, and that makes it hard for the average player who might not want to learn how to fly a drone. But we learned something very interesting, which is that there's a school, or several schools, I suppose, in China who actually use our game to teach their students how to fly drones. Yeah, it's like the drone club or something in China. And there's so many footage of them like with the VR headset, like using this to train so that they don't mess up these expensive drones in real life. So yeah, we do have experience in mixed reality, and we're more than happy to bring our titles to like all the glasses as development for them becomes available.
Wow, I didn't know flying drones is that challenging or interesting. Yeah, that is really cool. And having the audience from the other side of the world when you're not even expecting it, really fascinating.
Yeah. It was such a pleasant surprise. We were like, did anyone know this is our game? Did anyone know that this is like there's it's on their website. There's like videos of all and like they're like this is how they train their students. It was amazing. It was really special.
Very interesting. Great that you brought up, this type of different games and experiences. I would love to get into, how you look at the premium experiences. We talked about before the show, like a lot of developers are focused on free to play, younger
Mhm.
demographics, but you're doubling down on premium experiences for older audience. Why do you believe that these grown-up markets are, better to maybe serve to save the VR, or just like for maybe mass adoption might be a good path? What are your thoughts on that?
I think this is another instance where being a creator has really helped us. So if you were someone on the outside looking in, you would look at the top selling games, and a lot of them do happen to be free to play, targeted for younger audiences. But as creators, we cover content on like more premium titles, and like for example, Eric, our COO, he has a podcast where he talks about like different games and what's happening in the industry frequently, and the people that show up, they're like dedicated, they show up all the time, they're so excited, they're always saying, please, we want more premium titles. It's like when we started VR was all premium titles, and then with the mobile chipset and or like standalone headsets, it entered a new audience of like a younger audience. But that doesn't mean that the just because that audience is really loud, that doesn't mean that the existing audience that was there before all of a sudden no longer exists. It's like they've been ignored and completely forgotten, to be honest. But for us, we know that they exist because there's several reasons. One, because we have the Flat2VR modding community that continues to make free mods of AAA titles for free, available to more of, I guess, the technical people with more technical aptitude who are okay with using mods. So we see the download numbers on those free mods that we release, and like people are there. They want the game. It's just that no one is making it for them. So that's one. Two is like I mentioned, just the creator, like being creators, talking to the community directly. We see what they want. They tell us what they want. So we're like, okay, they're there. Three is, I guess, mostly intuition for us as gamers ourselves. Like we're all really hardcore gamers. We know what we want. We wanted it so badly that we started this company. And so between the mix of these three things, we were like, we truly believe that there is a premium audience out there. Well, because we see them, even though they're a little bit more hidden or like clouded under the free to play like boom, I will say, but they exist and they're excited. And what we've started to see as well as we've really like, so we started Flat2VR Studios just under 2 years ago. And so we had only released one title last year, which was Trombone Champ, and then this year we were able to release a couple more titles. And what we're now starting to see is like a resurgence. I mean, we believe that this would be the case. It's no like there's no way to know. But for example, we launched RoboQuest on PlayStation VR2 last month, and we also launched V Racer Hover Bike, which was a published title for us. So not developed internally. And these were both very premium titles. I mean, they're $29.99. We did not shy away from like their premium title, and we're going to price them as a premium title. Most people are like, let's just go as low as we can, like $14.99. Just like let's just drive the price down and to try to get more sales. But the sales isn't going like people aren't not buying the game because of the price, especially if you're looking towards older audiences with more dispensable income. They're not buying the game because it's not good. So make a really good game, make it so premium, and people will come. So anyway, we launched these two games last month, and both of them ended up being in the top 10 most downloaded for PlayStation when they were launched. So that was really exciting for us to see. So we're starting to see, I guess, the fruits of our like hunch in the market starting to pay off. the other thing that we saw that was really interesting this year, so Postal 2, very controversial game. We're bringing that to VR, but also remastering it for non-VR platforms. Now, we have always just focused on VR, and that's been our main priority. But in the process of developing this game to be able to bring it to a Quest headset, we it's an old game, over 20 years old. The graphics are very cute at this point in time. So we ended up having to remaster quite a bit of it and then optimize quite a bit to be able to bring it to that platform. And we're like, for doing all this work, it's going to take us basically no extra work to get it onto to just remaster it and bring it to all these other platforms. This was our theory, that people would be interested in this. Again, we weren't perfectly sure, but we thought that this might be the case. So we wanted to test this out. And I guess that's one key thing, is we like to test out our theories in creative ways. So for Postal 2, we decided to do a Kickstarter. And there's different tiers that you can back, tiers for VR, tiers for non-VR, just to get a gauge of if people are really interested. We hit our goal, our funding goal, the first day, which was of 250K. And then within a month, it had generated like over 600,000, for a game that's over 20 years old. Like that's a lot of people showing up with their dollars to show you what they want. So I do really believe in this concept of, if you're thinking something, validate it somehow.
Mm-hmm. That makes total sense. And Esther says, we're alive, older player. And Eric says, so we need to give people reasons to put their headsets back on. Premium buyers are there if we give them great games and full experiences. They will come back. That's awesome. Really cool stuff. Curious, when you're thinking about this older audience, are you also building for Apple Vision Pro, which is also a more premium type of hardware, or you're mostly focused on MetaQuest?
We want to bring our games to every platform. So any platform that will have us, we will make all of our games. I think one of the things that has been um, noted by the community about us and our company is we try our best to release a game on all platforms at the same time, which is bananas. Like, you don't do that, but we want to serve all the VR players where they are. So we will meet them where they are. If you're an Apple Vision Pro, we will make the game on Apple Vision Pro, but you got to tell us where you are, and if you want it, like, show up and like be loud, and we will do what we can to make sure that we serve them. One way that this has really like transpired, in a really nice way. We didn't expect this to happen, but after we announced Flat2VR Studios 2 years ago, all of a sudden on Twitter, every time there's an announcement for a new like flat game, or maybe an update to a flat game or something, where they're posting their trailer, we see so many people on like our fans and players on Twitter tagging us on this and saying, have you all considered bringing this to VR? Please talk to Flat2VR Studios. We get so many of these like tags every single day on Twitter, and it has been fantastic. Like, and there's a number of things. Obviously, a Twitter, like a social media account, is probably managed by like the account manager, or like the social media manager, if it's a big enough studio. So it's not really the business person that's seeing this directly, but if they get enough messages, that person will flag up someone higher up in their studio, to let them know that this is something that the players have been asking for. So it does really help in that sense. The other way that it really helps is we don't have infinite time, so we are players and we try to look at as many games out there as possible. But when people tag us in games that are coming out, it puts it on our radar where it otherwise wouldn't be. Yeah, so this has just been a really like beautiful thing to just tell us what you want. We do read everything. We pay attention to everything. We read everything. It's one of the things that we value the most. So if you voice what you want, we will go to wherever and whatever. Like, we're trying to build this company in service of the VR players.
Wow. So your community and fans are basically your sales agents too. That is
They've been
really
great. Yeah, I love it. I really love being able to build our company and like our are paving our path with the community because we could not do this without them. And they're so passionate about our mission and what we're trying to do that like sometimes we even see things we see them like blasting out, please, even if this game's not your genre, you have like please support the studio by buying this game because that allows them to make more games. And it's true, for us to be able to continue our mission of like bringing the best games into VR, we need to do well as a company. And so every time that these players support us, even if it's not a game that they would normally buy, it really does allow us to fund all these future games. And we're like, okay, tag us. If enough people tag us in a certain game, like we will do everything we can. We will like reprioritize to make it happen. So we're a company that's being like shaped, like is being guided, like what's the right word? We listen. We listen a lot and we want to build this company together with the players.
Beautiful. I'm curious, do you also have some sort of reward and incentive mechanism for them beyond, them, receiving your game? Any type of, I don't know, traditionally in Web3 was like tokens or anything like that at all?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. So if they participate and help us with playtesting the game, they do get their name in the credits, which is pretty cool. We do provide like sales for a lot of our games, so bundles. So if you buy one, you get some of the other ones at a discount. We want to do even more, believe it or not, but we just are so inundated with a lot of the games that we're working on. But what we would love to be able to do is like some of these supporters, we just are we need to figure out how we can find exactly who they are because right now they're everywhere. But if we can figure out who these players are, we would love to be able to provide them like really early access to our games. And like we say we want to build with them, and we really do like genuinely want to build with them. Most of the time we push them to join our impact labs because that's the easiest. And if we know that it's someone that's really has been a big fan of us and has been really supportive, we do prioritize their application to play test a game to make sure that they get in. So with our impact labs, it is a lottery system. So you can apply for a game, but you might not necessarily get access to be able to play test it because we have to limit the, so yeah, the more, like the higher your, like the better your reviews are or the better your feedback is for our developers, the more useful it is, the more bugs you find, the more you rank up and can get access to the games that you want.
And then they get compensated?
I mean, this is all volunteer based, so they get the game and they get to play the game early and then give us feedback.
Okay, cool, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Is there any other experience you want to show us, any videos, before I ask a couple more questions?
I can show a really cool video. Just let me find one.
I wanted to also ask about, these generative AI innovations that are coming out everywhere, and people say it impacts the gaming industry a lot. I'm curious if you guys are using AI at all, for development or anything else in your work.
So at this time, we're not using AI for development. Not that like I guess we couldn't in the future, but for us, we just have such a good system and process that we already have. So basically with the Flat2VR modding community and within our studio as it's developed, we've developed like so many proprietary tech internally that allows us to do what we do a lot faster. We really leverage economies of scale. So for us, there's not much of a reason to do that at the moment because we've developed things internally that allow us to do things so much faster. So I don't know why we would use something more generic when we have something more specialized. And then interestingly, because we do take existing games and bring them into VR, all of our art assets are from the original. So we take the source code, we take all the original art assets. Well, the most that we do for these, aside from maybe Trombone Champ, where we had to build an entire environment, but the most that we would normally need to do if the game is really symbiotic with VR would be VRifying interactables. So for example, a gun in a non-VR game would just be a solid model. But in a VR game, you need to be able to remove the magazine and put it back in and do like the reload. So we refine the art that we get. But that's if it's a really easy to convert game, then that's the most that we would do.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I would love to, I mean, if you're ready to share something, and then I want to get into kind of like your predictions for this space.
Um, no, that's right. We could just move to the next topic.
Sure. Yeah, I wanted to ask kind of like where you think the industry is going, whether for the next year or like 5 years from now. Obviously, VR headsets are becoming more manageable in terms of size and price and everything. And we talked about XR becoming more mass adopted. But curious, like from the game and experience perspective and all of the feedback that you are getting so far, where do you think we're going?
Yeah. So, okay. So there's a lot of free to play players right now, and they're younger audiences. Eventually, they're going to get older and be curious about what a deeper, richer experience looks like. And we are building all of those experiences. Each year, they're getting older and more curious about those experiences. I do believe, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I barely ever play non-VR games anymore. It just actually I get nauseous now when I play non-VR games because it's like 2D. Instead of me being able to turn my head, it's so unnatural. Um,
Wow.
and I think slowly but surely, as people get into VR, they start, especially with really robust, like well-made games. Talking about motion sickness, if a game's not optimized and not made well, you will get motion sickness. But a game can be fast and still not give you motion sickness if it's done well and optimized well.
Interesting.
But yeah, I do believe that people will start migrating over, especially for gaming, because it's just so much more fun. And our path for this is like if we keep bringing all of their favorite games, like if you keep, it's like I want to go to Disneyland. I want to experience my favorite thing. I want to go into that world. And so if we keep just doing this, we're going to slowly bring all of the gamers over to VR. I think there's another layer of this as well with smart glasses, which we mentioned. Smart glasses are gaining more popularity. They have displays. Google just announced yesterday that they're opening their SDK for developers to be able to develop on the glasses. And like glasses are being widely adopted, and people are going to get used to having a screen on their face, and they're going to wonder why the heck they're carrying a brick around and having to hunch over and look down at their phones when everything can just be easily put on a glasses form factor. And then you're gonna have games on these glasses, and then people are gonna be like, "Oh wow, this is really fun. I do enjoy being able to look around and play this game." And then they're gonna get curious and say, "Wait, is this what like a taste of VR feels like?" So I truly believe that people are going to flock towards VR, and that they're going to want a variety of things, but definitely they will want very rich gaming experiences, especially ones that have been developed by the original IP owners for like a decade, for example. Like a decade of development for VR doesn't make sense economically, but 10 years of development for a game for non-VR makes a lot of sense. And then taking that and then bringing it to VR with all the tools that we have, so we're able to do it faster and better. That makes sense. That makes a lot more sense. So yeah, I like my prediction is that like this is not going anywhere. You can see all my headsets actually. So I have like my Samsung and then my Apple headset over here. My PlayStation. Yeah, so I have a bunch of different headsets, and every time they release one, any of these companies release one, I always make sure to get it, test it, but like it's not stopping. I like, I know people had the stream, especially during the lockdown, that it would like go in this parabolic, and it did accelerate it really fast. But just because it slowed down after we were all in lockdown, I mean, I feel like that's so logical, doesn't mean that it's stopping, and it's not going to stop. And I think seeing how all of these companies are continuing to invest and now really like fight each other, like compete with one another to be in the top. This is happening. So whether or not people are like, "Oh, that's not really for me," it doesn't really matter. It's going to happen, and then you're going to be in it, and then you're going to play our great games.
Cool. And is there a specific genre that you see become more adopted to?
No, I think it's really a wide range of different things. So social is never going to go anywhere. People want to be able to play and interact. Multiplayer games allow for people to like So you have your game, and this so your game has a certain amount of interest in it. But then if you add a layer of multiplayer, it's this is the game, and then there's this element of randomness that gets thrown in, and so now you have an infinite combination of experiences that could happen. So social and multiplayer will always be big. I think simulation type games will continue to be massive. There's so many things that all of us have dreamt about doing that we just can't do. So example would be with our game V Racer Hoverbike that allows you to motorcycle through like a ride through space. Here, actually, I can pull up a video for that. It's so good. Um, let me. Okay. So this is V Racer Hoverbike, and it allows you to, yeah, to just race across space. And there's like loop de loops and crazy. It's crazy when you actually do one of the loops while you're racing. So simulation games are going to be really or continue to be really popular. I think you've probably seen Nutty Putty, like the Cave Crave game that's been really popular lately, and it's a simulation of that one man who died in the cave while caving. It's a simulation so you can see what he experienced, and that's gone crazy popular. So yeah, simulations are going to be popular, and multiplayer. Obviously free to play because there's a lot of younger audiences that brings them in, but also just really rich experiences. So I don't really see any one genre. There is two other ones that are quite that are maybe not the loudest, but they are present. They are consistent and always present. So fitness never goes anywhere. You will constantly see Supernatural and FitXR in the top selling. And while like you never hear people like raving about them, people love being able to use their headset and to work out in a different way from the comfort of their home. And then like meditation type stuff or like mental health wellness is a really big one. But again, it's not one that you're like, if you're just looking at what everyone's screaming about, that's not something that you would think because it's not in your face. It's just things that you would know if you're paying attention.
Yeah, it makes sense. Those that are more into our lifestyle experiences could be even more mass adopted. Yeah, because it just enhances the experience a lot more. Very cool. Thank you for sharing that. And Eric says Jasmine is one of the most passionate people I know about VR, gaming, and tech. This is a common bond that brought all of the founders together. It's a special combination. Beautiful. And yeah, as we are approaching towards the end of the show, I would love for you to tell us what's next for your studio and for you. How can people support you and find you? And if you have any advice for anyone listening and wants to kind of become a creator or have a company that is listening to the community a bit more.
Yeah, there's a few. Okay, so if you want to follow me specifically, I'm VR with Jasmine on all platforms. So just VR with Jasmine. And I'm available on all platforms. The main one is YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. And then for my company, you can follow any of our accounts. So Flat2VR Studios on all platforms or Impact Reality on all platforms. And then for anyone that wants to be a creator or have a company, those are two separate questions. I'll start with a creator. With being a creator, you just have to get out of your own head. You have to act faster than you think. That's actually how it works. Because if you think too much, someone will do it before you. Someone's always going to be faster and better than you in content creation. It doesn't matter. You just have to be consistent. So you just get out of your own head and just do it if you want to be a creator. And fail a ton. Just keep failing, and then eventually you'll figure it out. As long as you're studying while you're failing. So that's my advice for a creator. And then for a development company, I guess my advice I'll make it more specific for VR game development. My advice would be like really think about the experience that you're providing to the players. So like, what is your game? Like, why are people going to be obsessed with this game? As what I've seen many different types of games that are extremely polished and has a good base, but it just doesn't have that like extra punch, that extra stickiness and it might not be a big thing. It might be a very small thing that it needs. It's just really like when you're playing, try not to play as the person that developed this game. Try to play as the person who is experiencing this. And how do you get the players to want to say, just one more. I just want just one more, like one more go, just another 30 minutes. Just if the game is, and the game could be really good, but unless it has that really sticky, like I want to keep going, just one more element, it'll be hard for it to succeed.
Wow, really good advice. Thank you so much, Jasmine. This was super helpful, very insightful. You have had a fantastic career and so much great work. Thank you for all you do for the industry. Can't wait to see what you all come up with for the XR beyond what you're doing. And yeah, if you can share the links afterwards in the actual event page, that would be great, so people can support you, follow you,
Yeah.
subscribe. And thanks to our amazing audience for being with us for the past hour. I know this last part of the year is very busy for everyone. Thank you, Ketan, Ian, Todd, Eric, and Felipe, Shadi, Jean, Esther, Shada, Nathan, Damien, everyone else who tuned in. We're so grateful for you, and we'll be back next week, same time. Thank you, Jasmine. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.